Hi there. Today we're going to discuss the topics feature. My name is David Von Thenen, and I'm going to be your guide today. For the agenda today, we will review the basics of topics and cover some things you need to know to utilize it effectively. Then we'll discuss various real-world use cases. Then we will take the platform capabilities and use them in a real-world example. Next, we'll do a deep dive and cover some APIs as they relate to topics. Finally, we'll cover how-tos, as in how to build applications and solutions using our SDKs, plus have tutorials and more resources you can take a look at. So let's talk about topics, what they are, and more importantly, why do we care about them? So what are topics? They're basically themes containing the most important keywords or phrases in what is being talked about. The Symbl platform's model is more concerned about interrelated themes than just word frequency. Some differentiators on how Symbl works versus other competitors. Symbl performs keyword rankings based on relevancy, and there's also the concept of hierarchical topics. That's topics with subtopics. An example of that could be vacation, and subtopics could be a cruise or a safari. The platform also provides sentiment per topic. You can get a positive, neutral, or negative indicator on what the feelings are behind a given topic. There's also the ability to get the scope of what constitutes a topic. I kind of think of this as a kind of an audit of sorts, and it describes why this particular theme was signaled as a topic in the conversation. There's also an API in the Symbl Labs that provides abstract topics. Abstract topics are higher level concepts for what are being discussed. For example, if we're discussing pricing and there's a negotiation going on to settle on units per widget, the abstract topic could be sales. The topics features a pretty straightforward concept. Now let's talk about some very specific use cases in which you could use topics for. So the most obvious use case is defining what is currently being talked about. An implicit consequence for getting notifications on topics getting discussed is the ability to see if the conversation is staying on topic or theme. That is to say, the topic isn't changing. When you get notifications that a topic has been identified through a Symbl insight, it also gives you the opportunity to dive deeper into that particular theme. For example, one could find and reference more information regarding that topic and display that information to moderators or owners of the meeting. There also might be an opportunity to do research for tangential related topics to what's being discussed. Another implicit insight: if you get notifications for the same topics repeatedly, it could signal revisiting a topic, but more importantly, it might increase the importance of that topic in that conversation. Since we know topics are a focal point to the conversation, the Symbl platform can give you sentiment analysis about that given topic. In the case where we're getting notifications for the same topic, we can see if there is a change in sentiment in that topic throughout the conversation. So this is the opposite of the previous use case. This is using the topics feature to implicitly indicate a change in direction on what is being discussed. If we're leaving one topic to the next, the sentiment analysis on the previous topic might be of particular importance. How did we feel when we left that topic? And how do we feel when we approach the new topic? What's even more interesting is that if we have historical data about topic transitions from one topic to the next, there's a number of historical insights we might be able to derive from this. One such observation would be if topic A is brought up in a conversation, is there a correlation to always subsequently discussing topic B? If there are predictable transitions into a given topic, knowing that sentiment on that transition might be of particular value. For example, if we knew the transition from topic A to B was positive, but the transition from A to C is always negative, we might be able to clue in the moderators to steer the conversation towards topic B, thereby avoiding topic C. Now let's talk about how we can apply topics on the Symbl platform to specific real-world examples. So one particularly fascinating applied example would be leading a conversation in a certain direction. In order to achieve this, you need either historical data to understand the transition from one topic to the next, or have access to some third-party data source that knows the transition between topics. Basically, what I'm describing here is effectively word association, and I have a couple examples here. If I say the word doctor, what word pops up in your mind? Then if I say beach, what word do you associate with beach? If you said nurse for the first and sand for the second, you would fall under the most statistically probable associations for those given words. Why is this important? Why do we care? What we're describing is cause and effect. We understand that there's a causal relationship between person, places, and things, and they're not random. There are many science experiments that have proven this, such as Pavlov's dog. There are many psychological studies that show we have unconscious responses to external stimuli. And generally speaking, we know that life has patterns out there in the world. For example, there's a reason why peanuts are often given away free at your local bar or pub. Salty foods tend to cause you to drink more liquids, and that in turn leads to selling more beer or alcohol. Pretty sneaky, but ingenious at the same time. So the purpose of this applied example is to guide the conversation into a more favorable outcome for your goal. Understanding the favorability will be specific towards your business, and this is where the historical data comes into play. So I want to go off on a tangent here for a bit and talk about different types of advertising and marketing. And then we'll loop back around and tie everything up together. In the world of advertising or marketing, there's usually 3 categories in which you tend to market to a given audience. Those 3 categories are called ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethos is effectively using other people's credibility or character to elicit the desired behavior. In this category of marketing or advertising, you typically see subject matter experts giving an opinion, or more commonly, you see celebrities endorsing certain products, like your favorite athlete endorsing a certain shoe. Logos appears to our logical side through reason. This is where you see evidence or statistics to back up a given behavior. An example of this might be 9 out of 10 dentists prefer this brand of toothpaste over others. This particular brand of disinfectant kills 99.9% of all germs and bacteria. Finally, the last is pathos, or playing with our emotions. The more common means or vehicles of doing this is through either nostalgia or to encourage you to jump on the bandwagon. For those that might not be familiar with that expression, the more common expression these days is FOMO, or the fear of missing out. This is where you see things like, act now, there's only 10 left, or this deal expires in 2 hours. There's typically a fourth-ish form of advertising and marketing, and that's through unconscious reaction. I provided a link here that kind of goes over that a little bit more, but these are typically things like color psychology and subliminal messages. So for the next couple of examples, we're going to apply these methodologies. You might think certain things happen by chance, but in reality, they're very calculated and crafted means of advertising. In the example here with the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, there is an intentional design to make the logo look like Mickey Mouse. The advertisers hope that 1, you might get positive feelings about Pirates of the Caribbean because of your positive feelings about Mickey Mouse, as well as subconsciously motivating you to attend the Disney theme park. Another advertising technique is to play on emotions and feelings. The advertiser here is playing on the emotion that you want to be a good mother, and in order to do so, you need to use Lysol to make sure all of your surfaces are clean in your home. So, why did I bring all of this up? Because what I've described in those 2 examples is persuasive advertising. Since the Symbl platform provides you sentiment for a given topic, there's an opportunity to analyze the historical probability of a topic's sentiment. Why is this important? If you have the historical data to record transitions from topic to topic, and you also understand the sentiment behind those transitions, it could be possible to come up with a playbook or a sales run book, which could be rehearsed for prospective buyers, in which you have a known probability of closing a deal. You could also use topics and entities with sentiment analysis for things to avoid. Likewise, if you know the transition probability from topic to topic, you could map the progression of a conversation. And if you need to steer a conversation in a given direction, you could use word association like in the previous slide to direct or guide the conversation. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's go ahead and do a deep dive and look at some APIs relating to topics. The asynchronous API is a 4-step process. First, you log in. Then you either post or link out to a video or audio file to process. Then you poll for job status completion. Finally, you call the Get Topics API to obtain the topics or themes being discussed. This is what a typical asynchronous result on a topic looks like. You have references to the originating message IDs that contributed to this topic, and you also have the sentiment score for the topic. When you're doing real-time analysis using WebSockets, this is what the topic notification looks like. Again, you have the ID for the originating message that triggered this topic, the root words that contributed to this topic, and the sentiment score. So for the demo, we're going to take a look at obtaining topics using the JavaScript and Go SDK. Let's go ahead and take a look at that now. So for the demo, we're going to use the Getting Started Samples repo. This repo contains a lot of our JavaScript and our Node-related examples. To run the topics functionality, it's pretty straightforward. There's a helper script at the root of the repo. It's run examples sh. There is also a MP3 file at the root of the repo to serve as an example. You can also substitute your own MP3 file or audio file in this example. And to run that, we're going to do an async upload, which is we're going to upload the file to the Symbl platform, and then we're going to extract the topics from that conversation. So let's go ahead and run the example right now. So behind the scenes, what's happening is we are logging into the Symbl platform, and we are uploading this new phone call.mp3, which is our sample conversation that we use in many of our demos as an example. And once the file is uploaded, it is now polling in the background to see if the job is done, and we can obtain our topics, to see if we can obtain our topics. And here you can see the conversation ID and the job ID, which gets printed out right here. So when we were polling for job status completion, we see that we're polling using this ID, and then the conversation ID yields the topics here. And in this case, in the example, we have 3 topics. One is service provider, service technician, and appointment. So we're going to go ahead and do this with the Go SDK. So we're going to do a similar thing using the Go SDK. After you clone the repo, you can just go into examples/topics. From there, you just need to run the example that's provided. Go run cmd.go. And from here, we're going to see a lot of the debug output. This is intentional, so you can see what's going on. We're going to log into the platform. And then we're going to use that same exact sample .mp3 file. You can also see the job ID and the conversation ID. From there, we take the job ID and we poll to see if the job is completed. So this is, and from here, we actually have the job successfully completed. And you can see we're calling get topics. And because it's the same exact conversation that we're using in the previous example, you can see that the topics are exactly the same. So you have service provider, service technician, and appointment as the topics. Pretty straightforward. Let's go back to the presentation. The last thing I wanted to take a look at is the how-to. We will be taking a look at SDKs, tutorials, and finally offer up some resources for people who are looking to dive deeper into code to take a look at. For a recap on the how-tos, you can recreate everything done in this demo using the information contained on this slide. This will enable you to exercise the topic feature in JavaScript async API and in real-time WebSockets with the Go SDK. Here are some additional resources: the Symbl.ai documentation and the API Explorer, which offers a very excellent way without code to explore the platform's different capabilities. As always, you can reach us in our Slack community if you have any questions. Go ahead and drop me a DM to talk about anything you saw in this presentation. Thanks for watching this presentation. Again, my name is David Von Thenen. If you want to discuss anything further, you can reach out to me at my socials at dvonthenen on Twitter and LinkedIn. Also, my personal blog, https://davidvonthenen.com. Thanks again for watching.